I got some, Rich.
There we go.
You guys know to keep your hive tools clean, right? Everybody knows the best way to do that is in your smoker. Wait a minute. There you go.
Fine, even. This doesn't last that long.
That'll work. You want the smoke cool, right? Why? You don't want to burn the bees' wings off, right?
This hive is John's. John, was this a swarm hive?
Yeah.
How long's it been in here, John?
I guess since May.
Since May? Nice. Now, if you guys look right here, this is exactly where you want to look for varroa. You see these drone pupa? And there's a varroa mite right on this one here. There's one.
Well, you see it crawling on it. So.
If I try to get one for the video guy.
The video guy, right up there in front there.
Yeah,
Video guy standing over there. Got it.
Yeah, he jumped off of the pupa. Those are empty pupa.
You want to pass these around? These are drones.
Hold it in front of the camera real quick, Chris. Just up a little bit further.
There you go. That's good. I see it fine.
And then, yeah, then you can pass it around that way.
And sometimes you'll read in a magazine, they'll talk about looking for purple-eyed drone, and that's they're at this development stage where their eyes are purple.
How many days is that?
Pretty far.
Probably about 2/3 of the way through.
So we got one varroa and one baby out of about 15 pieces of drone brood. Okay, so not really that tough. But it's not a bad idea. I like to get rid of this stuff because it's just like trapping out varroa mites. And you're going to want to not throw it around the bee yard, but you're going to want to take it away. Why wouldn't you just fling it around your bee yard? Anybody know?
It's going to come back.
No, not necessarily. If you have disease, foul brood, and you start flinging around honey and comb in your bee yard, that can be a real problem.
A lot of drone.
Wow, look at all those drones.
So those drone brood, that'd be a good place to open and look, right?
Yeah, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But here we got a queen cell that's capped. Everybody knows what a queen cell is, right?
Now, how many days before that queen would hatch?
It's hard to tell
Yeah.
because I don't know what day they capped it. From the day they cap it, do you have any idea when they cap a queen cell?
Probably 12 days. I don't
No. How many days does it take for a queen to develop from an egg to a
16.
emerge? Okay. And it's 3 days as an egg, so 16 minus 3 is what? 13. How many days? It's about 4 to 5 days as a larva, roughly, plus or minus. Okay, so knock off 5 more days.
About halfway.
So it could be halfway, or it could be, you know, a couple days away. All right. Queen cell. Drone brood. There's another queen cell right there.
Can you do anything with them? Like, could you use them for another hive?
You could use them to make another hive if you wanted to do that.
Just, I tried scraping it out, but is there a method where you can attach it and?
It's better to take the frame,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned.
Make sure the queen's not on it.
Make sure the queen's not on it, and if you take the frame, and they have queen cells in there, supersedure cells, I want to make sure I leave at least one in there just in case something's wrong with that queen. Do you follow what I'm saying? Everybody see the queen cell? One here, one here. And here's, go ahead. It's usually a supersedure. It's not necessarily, it's not a swarm. But you can have swarm cells on the bottom and supersedures at the same time. And people always ask me, well, what are they doing? Superseding and swarming? Well, don't worry about that. If there's cells all over the bottom, they're going to swarm. It doesn't really matter where the other ones are. Okay?
You got drone brood and regular brood.
Got drone brood, regular brood. Got queen cells. Boom, boom. And drone brood.
In the middle of the day, most of the bees on that frame are nurse bees. They're not going to be your field bees. Field bees will find their way back to the hive. They're going to stay.
So they get that queen out of the way. I guess the queen come out and they would accept that.
Yeah, those nurse bees are taking care of all that brood.
How many days?
Can I see if the queen is there?
Yeah. Have you looked?
Sometimes I can see the queen's there. Sometimes I can't.
Yeah. Okay. Because I would look at that and have a hard time.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot going on there.
me too. Now let me ask you this. Well, if you're looking for the queen and you had to find her, what could you do to maybe, or suppose you wanted to split a hive in half or make a nuke up out of here. One of the things you could do is shake the bees off the frames into this bottom box, put a queen excluder on, put this box back on top, and in about an hour or two, there'll be nurse bees up there taking care of the brood again, and you could split that box off, and the chances are very good that you would not have the queen.
Good point.
I'm not going to say that it's 100%. The other thing you can do if you don't have a lot of drone brood in the burr comb is you can use one of these capping scratchers, and if they're the right age, you can kind of pull them out. This isn't cooperating too good with me though.
You want to get rid of the drone brood?
No, I want to check them for varroa mite.
Might check.
Wow. And that just sits right on top of the original foundation?
You also, just from a
draw
housekeeping
foundation?
standpoint, you know, you want to kind of clean the frames up a little bit. So if you get a lot of that burr comb, you want to...
Whose hive is this? Mine. John. Hey John, how's it going?
I just sort of go.
So Tim, is that too much fruit on there? Is it okay? Is it normal?
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 queen cells on here.
I see them over there.
I didn't realize there were that many on there, John.
So what do you do with that now? Can you put it back in there?
Yeah, I'm going to.
I need to.
So what message coming from the hive that there's that many, you know,
Sticks it back in.
supersedure cells going
Good thing the
on?
whole thing's made of wax.
Is that an unusually large
Maybe
number?
there's something wrong with the queen that's in there.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the message that you're...
Yeah. That's the message I'd take home from
Yeah,
it. Which makes me not want to.
right. I mean, 1 or 2 you don't worry about, but you know, there was just 6 or 7 on that one. Tim doesn't get stung because he's naturally repulsive.
Now, when you pull a frame of sealed brood out like this, what do you want to be looking for on the sealed brood? Does anybody have any idea?
Good pattern.
Pattern. You want a lot of the holes filled in.
Honey on the
It's nice
outside?
to see some honey and pollen.
It's nice to see honey. What if you don't see honey and pollen around your brood nest? What's that tell you?
Crowded?
There's no honey flow?
There's no honey flow.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see cannibalized brood on top of that, where they're actually tearing out half chewed out pupa. Okay? But when you see capped brood, you want to look and see if there's any perforations in the cappings. Okay? Because a perforation in a capping could be a sign of a problem. And if you see a perforation or a sunken black or dark colored cap, you want to take your hive tool and scrape that cap off and see if it looks white under there or coffee colored under there. Because it could be that you have a disease. Okay? So it's very important. I hear people talk about swapping combs back and forth, and there's nothing wrong with doing that if you know what you're doing. But I've had too many people swap combs back and forth, strong hives with weak hives, not inspected them for disease first and actually infected their good hives with American foul brood. You don't want to do that. Okay, when in doubt, exercise caution. Okay, if you're confident, go for it. But if you're not quite sure, exercise caution until somebody else gets to take a look at it.
Are you seeing a change in the prevalence of American foul brood, Tim?
Have I seen a prevalence of
Well,
it?
an increase in it.
No, but still running 1.5%, but it tends to be in people's
Yards.
who have a little bit of information, but don't know what they're looking at. What was that, Christopher?
I was just going to say, the other thing is if you suspect you have a problem, you need to clean your hive tool and everything before you go into the next hive.
That's exactly right.
You don't want to wash your hands, wash your hive tool so you're not moving what you think might be a problem from one hive to the next one you open.
You actually want to make sure that you put your hive tool in your smoker and clean it up and do exactly what I just did by scouring in the dirt. You see that baby bee just emerged. Has everyone seen a bee emerge before?
Just yesterday for the first time.
Where?
There's one getting ready to come out right there.
Yeah, right.
See, they eat their way out and they come out head first. Right there. Right there. A little bit of honey in there. No, you don't generally extract from the brood nest.
Tim, why are you putting all the queen cells leaving so many?
Because I've had too many people, the old queen already left, and then they go in and they read in a book somewhere to cut all the queen cells out. So the old queen left. Usually there's no eggs laid shortly before she leaves. The beekeeper goes in and cuts them all out of there. And now what do you think you just did to yourself?
Put yourself back 30 days.
Shot yourself in your foot. Because there's no eggs left in there. You cut all the queen cells out that were going to be the next new queen. The old queen already left. So that's why I don't do that. I let them fight it out.
Oh, okay.
Those virgins will come out, and the first one out will try to kill everybody else before they get out. Doesn't that make you feel warm and fuzzy? Okay. And if more of them get out, then they fight it out. That's just the way it goes.
Not a Disney movie.
So for those of us who aren't comfortable wearing nothing like you,
Yeah.
and we do have like the gloves, and they've got the wax and propolis, everything all over it. How do you clean that?
You don't. That's why I'm a strong proponent of not using gloves.
What about okay?
I mean,
That's the precise reason why.
What about latex or nitrile then?
Use nitrile. I don't have a problem with that.
They can sting through the leather gloves, but not. What about nitrile?
They'll sting. They can sting through. If they want to sting you bad enough, they can sting through it. But you know what? You're going to find if you're not using leather gloves, that your handling of frames and bees is going to be much more gentle. Much less likely to get stung.
I've done it a couple of times, but then when you get stung on your face and your eye blows up,
Well, wear a veil.
Yeah, I always wear the veil.
Nothing wrong with wearing a veil. But try not to wear gloves. Try to use the nitrile gloves or some sort of a tightly fitting glove so that you're not mashing bees, and so you can take them off and throw them away and put on clean ones if you're ever in doubt. That's what I would recommend.
if you do wear leather gloves, you can dip them in bleach.
Yeah, but that's not going to penetrate beeswax.
Well, if it's under the beeswax, that's true.
Here's a bee submerged. They eat their way out.
Get to work, baby bee.
Okay, and you can see these are newer bees. The wings flat back. The ones that are older got their wings more spread out.
It's also a sunny day in the middle of the day. Most of the field bees are out. They're not. If it's overcast,
What's the word? Like beginning, very beginning, and
when you're trying to steal their honey.
Black in the afternoon. Good morning.
the natural thing on the metal.
Yes.
That's spring. It's cut out. And then in the winter, you put the insert in there to close.
Look at that. What do you think of that frame of brood?
That's full.
Very nice.
Yeah. You look at a couple frames like that in a hive, and you know there's not a problem here. wall to wall.
So is this ready? Well, there is a shallow super on it.
There is, but it's a shallow super of foundation.
There's that much brood in there? Does that mean a honey super should have been put on?
Yeah, they can't.
The honey super was on.
For what?
It's right here.
Okay.
They have second deep, and then you put the medium super on.
It's always better to go down to the bottom if you're going to do a full brood nest inspection and then work your way back up. Why do you think that is? Anybody know? Huh? Less bees. Yeah, if you start at the top and you smoke them down, when you get to the bottom, you've pushed everybody down there. It's like a coiled up spring ready to come back in your face. You got to have a veil if you do it that way. Okay? Did you follow what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
So this one can go right back on top, or I'll inspect them on the lids a lot of time. If I'm looking for the queen, I'll split them and then look in both boxes before I put them back together. Because if you go through the top and you're trying to find the queen, where do you think she's going? She's going down. Okay? So if you look through the bottom and then you put the top box on and you're looking for the queen up there, they're just running back and forth. You'll never find them.
There you got honey on top there.
Everybody knows what bee bread looks like. Pollen stored with bee bread. And we got plenty of brood. It's a very nice colony.
From May, you said? May swarm?
More queen cells. I'm not seeing a lot of open brood though. I'm only seeing sealed brood. And that would make me wonder if the queen bailed out of here in a swarm or something. Look at that big mama.
Yeah, there's going to be a queen battle royale soon.
Yeah. I'm going to put MMA to shame.
Have you ever seen them, duke it out or?
No, I haven't. I've heard them trash talk each other. They do. They go beep, 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 beep.
Oh, really?
Joking.
Essentially what they're saying is, you better not be there when I get out of this cell. I'm going to cut your throat.
You can hear them through the cell?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the Italian bees, right?
Hey, they all do it.
Sequester the queen before they actually, the new queen comes out, right?
What?
They sequester the queen, the outgoing queen?
They keep her from laying eggs, and then she leaves before the new ones come out, generally.
Yeah. But she doesn't like to be sealed off, and she's supposed to let out some noises because she doesn't like to be...
So you didn't see eggs in there, Tim?
No, I didn't see any eggs in there.
You would expect it in that top box.
The top box, anyways, is like open brood and the whole thing. Nice.
So, a lot of times they don't like to move up on foundation too well. If you are using, and some of this foundation's kind of falling apart, you can see the this is a Duragilt foundation, and you can see a lot of the wax is falling off of it, and they will not work on the plastic part of this type of foundation. A lot of people, I find, will put these boxes of foundation over a queen excluder. And if you want to force your colony to swarm, that's a great way to do it. Okay? If you have brand new foundation and no drawn comb in your honey supers, you should not use a queen excluder. Okay? Because they won't go through a queen excluder to work on foundation, generally. if you're keeping bees in a tight space, in an urban tight space, I would recommend you not use queen excluders. Okay, because you'll tend to make your bees swarm more, and while we may think a swarm is really cool, your neighbor may be petrified of the swarm. And if you want to be a good neighbor, I would recommend you manage your bees so that you try to control swarming as much as possible. Okay, we're running into more and more problems with that in different parts of New Jersey, with townships developing beekeeping ordinances because of the way a beekeeper is keeping their bees next to a neighbor. In some instances, the neighbor may be unsatisfiable. In other instances, the beekeeper is a borderline bee hoarder, okay, and isn't managing them to minimize swarming. So there's got to be a balance between the two to some degree, and a responsible beekeeper will be a good neighbor towards their neighbor, I think.
So when the scout bees go out to find a suitable location, if they are crowded and they want to swarm.
Ask it louder though.
If the
Jason.
scout bees go out and they find a suitable location because they are going to swarm, is there any way that you could help yourself by? Can you put out a nuke box? Could you put a few out? Is an attractant a really bad idea? I mean,
yeah, the question is it good to have a catcher hive in your bee yard? It's not a bad idea. But I'm going to tell you what, the best thing to catch bees in is not a brand new box with foundation in it. Honeybees are highly attractive to a box where bees had lived in the past. They smell that smell. They smell the propolis coating. Having a comb or two of drawn comb in there is very beneficial to attracting a swarm in. So yes, having something like that in your bee yard, there's nothing wrong with that.
Does the distance matter? Like there's a number of queen cells in there. Not saying that they are going to swarm, but say you put it like right next to it. You make it really easy. Could be your new home.
No, the distance doesn't have nothing to do with it. No. A lot of times they'll fly into stacks of old equipment. They're highly attracted to that.
That's how I got my first swarm.
That's how he got his
I was
first.
sitting out in the back of the shed. I turned around. Next thing I know, I had a swarm, threw it in a box, and I'm now a beekeeper.
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago.
So there's nothing wrong with doing that. What would you do if you went into a hive and there were eggs, larvae, sealed brood in here, and it was the beginning of May, tons of flight, and queen cells hanging all over the bottom bars of those frames? How would you stop that hive from swarming? Any ideas?
Separate.
Huh?
Separate.
Split it in half? Okay.
They won't swarm if there's no brood, right? I mean,
If there's no brood, what are the elements of a swarm?
Queen.
the queen
Queen.
bees would have to work for us.
And field bees, right?
Yeah.
Queen and bees that can fly.
Being crowded?
Being crowded can force them to make swarm cells, but the elements of a swarm are the queen and bees that are old enough to fly. So, if you have a hive that's going to swarm and you take away the bees that are old enough to fly, or you take away a bulk of the bees, you may minimize that swarm. And a good way to do that is you could just split the hive in half, and in my particular situation, I usually will split them in half. But if you live in an urban area, a good way to do it is pull out a couple frames, a frame with queen cells on it and maybe 2 or 3 other frames, put them in a hive body on the original stand where they're foraging from, and move all the rest of the hive to another spot in your bee yard. Now you're going to have field bees. They're going to have a lot of room. They're going to have a couple queen cells in there, and chances are you took the old queen, if you did it before they swarmed, and moved her over there, less likely to have a swarm. More likely to control the swarm. Okay, catching a swarm's cool, but it's far better to control it so it doesn't fly away, because what do you think's happening to them during the middle of the day when you're at work? They're flying away. If you can stop that from happening ahead of time, you're dollars and cents ahead of the game, right?
How do you maintain the yard with a certain amount of hives though, if you're not going to continue to expand? That's the thing that, like, I don't have all that much room to keep growing.
That's a great question. What do you do if you're multiplying your hives? Do you just let them fly away and fill up the environment with bees? Or do you control that and start developing 3 or 4 or 5 nukes or single-story hives a year, get them inspected, and run them through your association and sell them to other people that want to start keeping bees. That's a great way to go.
And are you the inspector, or is there some other?
I am, yeah.
So, and just call and say.
Yeah, but you know, there's one of me, so you got to give me a little
know.
time. If you know you have them, you got to give me a little bit of time.
And you probably don't want this one either, right?
No, I'm okay with one. If you're going to sell it, I'd like to look at it before it's sold. But keep in mind, it needs to have sealed brood in it. I don't want to look at them if you just put the swarm in yesterday. Don't call me to drive up to look at something like that. It's got to have a couple cycles of brood in it so that we can make sure that there's not a disease issue you're going to give or sell to another fellow beekeeper.
And are you available to just come and check somebody's hives just for no reason, just to help? Like if I just wanted your input, that kind of thing?
If I'm in the area, I'm not going to make a special trip for that situation just because I can't.
Right.
But if I'm working in the area, or if you get your association together and say, hey, we're going to have Tim come up here and spend the day. Who wants to be on the list? And we're going to run a circuit of 10 beekeepers. That would be a great way to do it. I do that in Sussex County. I do that in Cape May County. The association gets a whole circuit together, and I'll go out and we'll bang through them all.
What kind of food do you like?
Look at me.
Anything. He likes honey.
I'm on the seafood diet. And pretty much I don't push away. I'm not on the push away diet.
Bob Hughes can do it too, right? I mean, he inspected mine.
Bob Hughes can, but he's no longer on the payroll till sometime in August. Rich, let me grab some of mine.
All right. I think mine's a little wet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, can everybody keep their smoker lit? No. Do you have a small one?
Yes.
Get rid of it. These are 10 times easier to keep lit, the larger ones. They cost $5 more than the smaller one. And I'm going to tell you all something. You want a good smoker? Buy a date ant. I don't get no kickbacks from it. They got the best bellows going. That's all I use. I'm a smoker snob and a hive tool snob. I'm all for the date ant smoker. There's a big D on the bellows over there because the bellows, and if you guys can go in and feel that, you get a hell of a lot more puffing out of there than you do with some of the other manufacturers. The Walter T. Kelly hive tool is almost like a knife edge on the end. And you can break apart anything with that. And it's made out of like spring steel. I've seen this thing like bent a third of the way and it just goes right back to normal. So I'm a little bit of a snob on both of those items. And I got to tell you, I tried one of them Brushy Mountain veils for the first time this year. I'm a snob towards them now. I got away with my old Excelsior veil, and now I have a Brushy Mountain. It's nice because it's got a built-in sweatband. And when you have glasses, there's nothing worse than sweat running down your forehead on the inside of your lenses. Ay, ay, ay. Hate that. Okay, this one's a little smaller.
If we want to build up some extra comb, when would be a good time to introduce new foundation to an existing hive so that for the following year, if we do get a swarm, we have some available built-out foundation?
The best time to draw foundation is during a honey flow. Okay, that's a great time to do it. So it could have been on already. If you have an overwintered hive, or are you putting it on a package?
Well, like this year we had I had one swarm come, in fact 2 times, to catch in the yard, and I was scrambling to find some drawn out comb. Rich Lepik came over and lent me something that he had that was surplus equipment that had drawn out comb. So I'm thinking, okay, to prepare myself.
Wait a minute, nothing draws comb like a swarm.
Yeah, yep.
A swarm will draw comb 10 times better than an established hive will.
So you're saying just to take the swarm and then just put it into brand new foundation and let them go by themselves?
I'd want 1 or 2 combs of drawn comb to hold them there.
Right.
If you have a brand new box with brand new foundation, they may not like that too much.
Right.
If you have a box that bees have been in before and foundation with 1 or 2 frames of drawn comb, it's not diseased, and they will draw that box of foundation out fast. And you can throw another box of pure foundation on top, and if it's a big, strong swarm, they'll draw that out too. Okay. If you're in the honey flow. Yeah.
So it's just
But
matter
also
now
to
is
answer
I'm
your
doing
question,
just
if you put the inner cover on and then put a box of foundation on top of that and feed them 1-to-1, you can get they'll draw some of that out. I mean, they may not draw the whole box out, but that 1-to-1 kind of stimulates the nectar flow, so they'll potentially draw some of that out.
But don't believe for 1 minute that sugar syrup becomes honey. Okay, so if you have a hive that you're producing honey on, you do not want to be feeding them to draw out comb.
Right, this is after you pull, like what I'll do is pull, after I've taken the honey off, you put the inner cover on, put the box on top, and feed them the 1-to-1 until you get to the end of August, and you need to switch to the 2-to-1 if you're going to try to bulk them up for the winter.
You mean on top of wet supers?
What's that?
On top of wet supers?
I mean, if you put your wet supers back on. No, he's talking about if he wanted to draw out some new comb for next year.
Does everybody know what eggs look like? Has everybody seen eggs?
Yeah.
Do you know what eggs look like? Man, you're all right. How old are you? Good job. Does everybody know?
Exactly.
Hey, you never know.
There's an egg in that cell right there. I'm going to go show it to this fella.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I got it zoomed in there.
All right. When you see eggs, what does that tell us?
Got a
Who
queen.
was there how long ago?
3 days or less.
Yeah. You guys look at these cells here. There's all those little white rings.
I think you're not seeing it because I
Very important to know be able to see eggs in your hive. Is it easier to see eggs on dark comb or light comb?
thinking lay an egg.
Man, that thing's really going to trip me up.
She's like, well, shit, how do I get out of here? He wants to go back in the deep box where it was nice and dark and warm and you had your proper bee space. And then
Sorry, I keep
If you
ripping
were
you.
to take
I'm
this
sorry.
frame out of my hand, are you comfortable doing that? And if you were to put the sun up behind your head and just slowly rotate it around, you'll see all these little white like exclamation points in there. Don't drop it on me. Move over that way.
I've never checked.
Right here. Little white explanation marks like. That's what eggs look like. Yeah. Young lady, move over, please.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you live?
The frame, you're not going to see it up here. The frame's got to be down. You got to have the light shining in it. Pull it back, away from the fence a little bit, away from the fence. Now lay it flat so you can rotate it, and you should see them light up in there. You're never going to see eggs if you hold it up and try to look directly in there.
I know, I saw last time I was meeting.
This frame will actually be better for you to see it on. If you come up right behind my left shoulder,
Yeah, I like it. It's very light to feel.
you see the white larva in through here? Floating in a pool of jelly. You see the glistening jelly? And then this is eggs all over here. Little white eggs. You see it's a darker cell. You see them in there? How about now? It's right in. Yeah, there's white explanation there. All right? Yeah, I'll take that back. What do you want to see, eggs? Right on this frame here. You want the sun high behind you, you want the frame down low. Now you're blocking it with the shade, so you want to turn a little bit one way or the other, and then slowly rotate that frame. You see the white jelly all in the middle here, in the bottom, with little larvae in them? And if you look over here, it's eggs, totally tons of eggs.
Is it always a shiny surface before they lay an egg?
No, it's a dry surface before they lay an egg. The egg dissolves, the shell of the egg dissolves within 3 days. And then they start putting jelly in there. And the jelly is what feeds the larva while it's growing.
Is that jelly a type of honey?
No, it's royal jelly. Starts out with royal jelly for a day or so, and then it becomes bee bread after that. It's a food for the baby.
It's produced in it's a glandular secretion from the nurse bees.
Now here's older larvae. You see the white larvae? Can you see it as I rotate this frame? You see the white larvae? Tons of them. You see them white larvae in there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
White larvae. Just before they're being capped. The seed, the little larva is filling the whole cell. Okay? Yeah. The little larva is filling the whole cell. You see them? See the white larva? You see the little white worms in the cell? Right here? Yeah. Like the baby bee.
Yeah.
When it's rainy, Tim, when it's rainy, and it's been rainy for a few days, what do they do? Do they plan their work? You know, do they draw out the wax because they want to keep busy, or what are they doing in the hive?
Yeah.
Watching TV.
They were eating the food they stored on the days that they were out foraging. Quite frankly, a lot of rain is poor for honey production. Okay? Think about it. If you go to work 6 days a week, 10 hours, 12 hours a day, you don't have a lot of time to spend your money, do you? Your bank account fills up. But if you got all kinds of free time, you're spending money right and left. Same thing in the beehive. Okay? All right, you good? Everybody see them?
Indoor work, you know.
Yeah, well, and they're also eating honey.
Well, the nurse bees are still nursing, but the foragers aren't doing inside work.
Yeah.
And if you fed them, can't they do something with that? Can't they?
Well, yeah.
If you're feeding them and it's raining, will they draw out combs?
Well, but as he said, you don't want to put food on a hive where you haven't harvested honey if you intend to harvest, because you'll get sugar water honey mixed with nectar honey.
And that's exactly the reason that we say in my beekeeping class, if you're starting out with a new hive and new comb, you want to keep feed on them all the time, because they will draw comb on rainy days. But if you have an overwintered hive that's out foraging for honey, you don't want to feed them sugar syrup, because sugar syrup will contaminate your honey.
And when can you use a pollen patty? Do you use them at all?
Oh, that's a great question. When can you use a pollen patty? Do I have anybody with opinions on that?
Springtime.
When in the spring?
As soon as they start flying.
Okay, so late winter.
Yeah. When they start to produce the brood.
You think they prefer pollen patties or regular pollen? Regular pollen, absolutely. Okay. If there isn't any, why would you feed pollen patties?
For brood.
To what?
Produce brood.
To produce brood. Any other thoughts?
They're flying before there's anything blooming?
Maybe. Okay, to build the colony up. But you know what? If you build them up too soon and they're out of sync with what's going on in your environment, that isn't always a good thing. If you want to split a colony, you want to make up increases, feeding pollen patties and sugar syrup late winter is not a bad idea, because it simulates a nectar flow. If you do it as just part of your routine management, you can actually force them to swarm too early. Okay? You can get caught kind of behind the 8 ball. If
you have small hive beetles in your vicinity,
they like
pollen
that
patties
stuff.
will draw them into your hives.
And I see too many beekeepers with pollen patties on their hives all summer long, that are doing nothing but incubating small hive beetle larvae because they violate bee space. I even see them put the patty on the outside where there's no bees near it. If there's no bees near it, they're not going to eat the patty, they're not going to drink the syrup. It's got to be where the bees are.
So where you put them?
You put them right on top of where the bees are, a pollen patty, if you're going to use them. But this time of year, there's no reason to use a pollen patty.
You can also use dry pollen if you have problems with a small hive beetle.
You could.
Tim, anybody use hive beetle traps? They work?
Tim,
The oil in them? No.
having only 9 frames in there while they're throwing them out.
No, I didn't.
Let's, yeah.
But I think the feeder is messing up the space a little bit, that's all.
Oh, she really can't
What was
see it.
that?
Anybody using hive beetle traps? Do they work?
People use them. But you know what? Hive beetles are in hives all over New Jersey, all over the world. Okay? What kind of a hive gets damaged by small hive beetles? Can anybody tell me?
Weak hive.
Weak hive, a hive that ought to be dead anyway. If you keep your bees strong and in good shape, and you're not putting pollen patties on the wrong time of year, and you're minding bee space, you're not going to have a small hive beetle problem. Okay? Generally. If I see adults, I smash them. But putting hive beetle traps in my hives, I don't do it personally. Because every time I take them apart, now I got to deal with a hive beetle trap full of oil that's dripping all over the place. It's a pain, as far as I'm concerned. Are you going to ask a question or just scratching your head? All right. So, you know what? They have hive beetles. If you're in Florida or Georgia, you got to manage that all way differently than we do up here. Generally, it's not that big of a deal up here. I will tell you this, because of the mild winter, there's a lot higher population of hive beetles in New Jersey now. So you're going to want to stay vigilant. If you let a colony go queenless and they can no longer, they don't right themselves and they can't keep their hive clean, you could have a serious small hive beetle problem very quickly. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But the problem is the hive is not strong. It's not whether or not you had a trap in there. You could have had a trap in there and they still would have had a larva problem in the hive because the hive is not strong. Far better to stack a dud on top of a good hive over the inner cover so the comb is protected and the resources are protected than just allow it to die out in your bee yard in July or August and become a breeding ground for small hive beetles.
Say that again, I missed that. What do you do?
If you have a dud,
Dud meaning?
a hive that's not going to make it.
Okay.
It's far better to stack it on top of a strong hive over the inner cover.
Let the bees from below come up and work it out.
Let them keep it policed. Keep wax moths out, keep small hive beetles out, keep that thing policed, and then next year, once it gets cold, take that equipment off and store it for the winter and use it next spring. Then who was the person that asked about it having extra comb? Now you got a whole box of extra. Don't judge your beekeeping skills by the number of colonies you have. You've been to beekeepers meetings where people, how many do you have? How many do you have? Who cares? Okay, I know plenty of good beekeepers got 2 or 3 hives. Okay, I know people got 100 that are terrible beekeepers. Just because you have money and you can pour it down a rat hole doesn't mean that you're a good beekeeper. Okay, but if you don't do anything with duds and you leave them laying around and you get small hive beetles and wax moths tearing them up, that's a sign of a poor beekeeper. Okay.
So you keep the inner cover and put the wick on top.
This is a perfect place to store wet honey supers after you extract them. Perfect place to store duds over top of a strong hive. This is not a strong hive, by the way, but this would be the one to do. This is a strong hive. Okay?
You always put them over the inner cover?
Yeah, any thoughts why you might do that?
Dripping or something? Or?
No.
To limit the flow, the number of bees going up and down.
It will do that. We really don't want the queen going up there.
Oh.
Okay? She's not going to want to go up there. And any food coming in, instead of being stored in 3 or 4 supers over top, are going to be stored in the brood nest. Because once you extract honey, you want all the feed coming in to be stored down here afterwards. And they will tend to do that if you use an inner cover to restrict that brood area to 2 deeps. Did you follow what I said, or were you daydreaming?
No, I'm trying to listen to you.
Okay. Inner cover restricts the size of the brood nest to the 2 deeps. And if there's honey in the duds that you stack on top, they'll go up through, clean it out, and bring it down. Okay?
The inner cover doesn't have the corral on top, in the center.
Inner cover.
Yeah, on the side, the frame normally has a cutout.
Some of them
A
do,
notch.
some of them don't.
So you don't need it, in other words?
No,
Oh, I thought that they need that for air or something like that to go in.
no.
Another entrance or something.
If you're worried about that in the winter, put a stone here and then put the outer cover on top.
I think that one had that one over there.
In the winter, you can go just like that.
Oh, I
Now we have an upper entrance and a lower entrance.
Okay.
If you're worried about ventilation, you can even do that in the summer if you want. But you can't do that if you have boxes stacked on top. Okay? But in the summer, it's not imperative. It's more imperative in the winter to allow moist air to escape from the hive.
Tim, do you think 2 deeps is enough on an 8-frame hive too?
I don't know. I don't have too many 8-frame. I don't have any 8-frame hives, to be honest with you. So I would imagine it's probably okay. But I would think 2 deeps on an 8-frame hive, they may have more tendency to swarm with a smaller brood nest like that. But I don't really know.
I did 3.
3 deeps?
Yeah, but it was my first hive last year. I put the 3rd deep on and they filled it with honey.
Beautiful.
And then, well, I'd say it's honey, but I fed them too, so it was the first year.
With sugar syrup.
Right. But that same group of 3 was loaded with bees in the spring, and that top box was still full of honey, of whatever it is, syrup.
So you must have got enough feed in there for them to make it.
Right, but is there any chance that that same box has never been turned over? It's still sugar syrup and it's still...
Yeah, there's a chance of
They're
that.
just going to leave it there? They don't need it? They don't want
Yeah,
it?
the best thing for you to have done in the spring would have been to take that box that was full,
Uh-huh.
put it on the bottom board. What does that do? It makes them walk through honey in order to bring anything in, more likely to use it.
Okay.
Number 2, it separates it from new honey so that you know that it wasn't stuff from last year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we would always, any honey left on the top after winter, whether it's in a medium super or a shallow super, would go on the bottom board in the spring.
Oh,
And then that super gets pulled back out the following spring because there won't be any bees in it. You see what I'm saying? That way you rotate them.
okay.
Because I used to run 100 colonies in Warren County for honey production. And we didn't use queen excluders there. Oftentimes I'd leave extra supers on, or if they had a strong goldenrod flow, there'd be extra honey on top of those bees. Well, I don't want to extract last year's honey. Number 1, it's crystallized. Number 2, it's old. It's hard pain to get out of the comb. So we would use it to make bees, and we just put it down first thing through in the spring. It would go on the bottom board. That way we knew that was old honey. We didn't run crystals through all of our new honey. You see what I'm saying? We let the bees eat it, and then the following year, pulled the super out and put it back into honey production.
So what can I do with it now? It's still full.
You can also do what he said. You can put the inner cover on, set that on top of that. Take a scraper, scrape open the cappings on the frames, set it in there, and the bees will take
They'll
that
feed it
load.
back.
Or if it's not too crystallized, you can put it in an extractor and extract it, and then put that in a feeder.
Okay. Because I always think
Is
in
it
that,
still limited to 3 deeps, your hive?
that has the 3 deeps and it has a honey super on top.
Did they put any honey in that?
Yeah, but slowly. So I don't know if that's because they're crossing all the full stuff.
It could be.
And that same hive had 3 swarms this year within 4 days. I captured one and made a new hive. And the second and the third one were gone within hours. Like they formed their swarm and gone. Formed swarm gone.
Yeah.
The first one sat there and waited for me to come home from work and take it. But the other ones, my sister said, you know, it happened again, and they're just gone.
Right.
So I don't know if that's just...
Yeah, you know what would have been a perfect thing for you to do on that? Would have been if you'd have seen the queen cells in there, split that hive up and divide that honey up amongst them, and you'd have had 2 or 3 hives instead of 1.
Yeah. I mean, I did get the first swarm, but I still didn't do anything with that box that's full, and I was thinking, is it honey?
Well, why don't
Is
you
it
use that
sugar?
box, make sure the queen's not in it, you can put it on your swarm. That way your swarm's nice and fat, getting ready to go for the winter.
So it's no big deal as long as there's not contaminated brood or some weird thing in it?
Yeah.
You can just move it over?
Yep.
And should I uncap some of it for them to start taking it, or will they just do it?
Not if you're putting it on top of a single-story swarm.
Okay.
Just put it right on top, and now your swarm's a double deep.
Okay. That swarm is pretty established now, even though it's only 1 deep. Like they're almost full.
Yeah.
So that'll still be okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
They got it easy. It's like an inheritance. Any other questions? Let's look at one of these big guys. Is there honey on some of these, you guys think?
Yeah.
On that one?
And we want to take a frame out for this one.
Does everybody know what small hive beetles look like?
No.
Yep. All right, I'm going to show you in a minute.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah, this box is in pretty good shape.
Heavy.
And this box has 10 frames in it.
Yeah, it's filling it up.
It's nice to run 9 frames in your honey supers because it's a lot easier to uncap them if they're bumped out past the. I'm gonna go show them that.
Yeah, that's a nice looking.
If they're bumped out well past the edge.
Club hive.
Yay, club.
Wow. There's a good looking
Nice
hive.
frame of capped honey. It's a club hive?
Yep. Somehow it came through Janet's hives.
We better inspect
An
it.
incredible life cycle.
There you go.
This tastes pretty good.
That was apparently the demo of the 4-H fair that I kept for years.
You making queen? Still making queen or not?
No, I want to.
I want to make sure you
I
get
know,
some of
last
that.
time you were talking about.
In a 2 months, so you know, change.
Oh, okay, good.
Congratulations.
Oh, small hive beetle. Let me show you guys some stuff.
How about you use the brush?
All right, adult small hive beetle. Okay. You can take them, pass it around.
Yeah.
Small hive beetle larva. Okay. Take that and pass it around. These are bees with string wing virus. You look closely at their wings. And then this one you can see some bromites and their size relationship to honeybees. Okay? They're in liquid hand sanitizer. Pass them right down and tell your neighbor what that is. And then collect them all at the end.
What are we supposed to do with it?
Take a look at small hive.
Kill it, and then how do you kill them?
Oh, no, they says that most of the time the whole time will go for themselves.
Right.
Oh, I thought, is this the larva of the small hive bee? Of the small hive.
Looking heavy. Yeah.
We got a couple boxes over here.
Yeah. This hive was like crazy. Really? This one, and I mean, it survived the winter. So the ones with the honey supers on actually are overwinterized hives. And this one threw off on him a couple of swarms, and they were monsters.
For some reason this year there was a heck of a lot of swarms.
On the edge, on the glass.
It's not too dry.
Did you guys pull a nuke out of here?
Yep.
Rich?
Yes. The nuke is over there with the yellow top, next to the fluorescent top.
Right here?
Over here, no, one in the back, on the corner. We're planning on moving these over to English Farms, so just a few miles down the road from here. Since they're more mature hives, we figured they would do better than younger hives, which need to be fed and taken care of.
So this would be more your nursery?
Yeah, exactly. So I want this to be a nursery, also hives for new members that are joining. I'm thinking about getting up to 20 hives here.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, this hive is phenomenal.
It has wings, but they're shriveled. It can't fly. So when those bees, and they're not healthy, so the first 3 weeks when they're inside the hive, when they first hatch, the nurse bees will feed other bees on their bees. So they can't produce high quality.
That looks good.
That is okay.
Next generation.
This hive is
Additionally, besides having
very productive girls.
they've got nurse bees that are not healthy, raising.
Are they Canolian?
I think I only have 9 frames. I've been using 9 frames more and more because they get so cooked up, it's so hard to work with. Unless it's the new frames, then I keep 10.
Right.
No, but the bee is that they're not
It
blonde
makes it a lot
Italians.
easier to extract.
I found the blonde Italians like to proliferate. These are Canolians?
No, these are Italians.
They're Italians? That's it.
We're leaving that frame out, right?
Yeah, he took it up there so people could taste them. So the honey from this hive is going to be sold at the fair in a month.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really?
Oh, that is.
Yeah, we're going to sell it. We got our own label.
Oh, wow.
Every year we're getting people asking, well, is it from the club or where is it from, that type of thing. Now I can say, well, it's from Warren, New Jersey, exactly, it's club honey, that type of thing.
That's great. How much do you get for that?
On a pound basis?
I mean, you sell them.
Oh, no, I'm not selling, I'm just the honey.
Oh.
This was a package bee.
This one's doing pretty good too.
Yeah. These were the bees that came from Walt Wilson.
Oh, okay.
We ran a club thing where I think we ended up selling like 80 packages or close to it.
I remember reading that.
And it seemed they did fairly well, I think. I haven't heard too many complaints. We had a couple of queens that died. Next year what I want to do is I'm actually going to buy maybe like 25 packages myself and set up like a little new colony. This way it's easier for some of the members for the first year. They don't have to worry about removing the queen from the cage and some other things. Because it's awfully intimidating for a lot of people to begin with.
There's a lot of capped honey on that.
On the ends, on that one I can't.
Right over here, it looks like.
Yeah.
Right in this capped honey?
Here's the queen. Oh, actually, she's coming out the other
Show
side.
right over here. See her right there?
Oh yeah, there she is.
Give it to the camera here real quick if you can. So you can get that.
She's playing games with me. See her? Right there.
Oh yeah. And that's capped honey right there, right?
I like when they have a little dot.
See if you can point it right up in here somewhere.
I like when they have numbers.
Where's the queen? Where do we have the?
Right by my thumb.
Right by the thumb.
Right there.
There's our queen.
Yeah, he went on the other side now.
Yeah.
Just see her right by my thumb.
I have tons of white.
Yeah, she's playing games with us. She says,
Was
you
she
guys are
marked?
not going to see me.
I didn't see her marked, so she's an unmarked queen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Before Apiarist. I used Apiarist last year. They seemed, and the funny thing was, I didn't notice until we mentioned it then.
As they get older, they
Different races.
Something wrong, but it wasn't. What kind of race do you now?
Oh, is that where they come from?
Yeah, the Vikings have yeah, the locals had a problem with the Vikings.
Yeah, so is this worth the 25 to 20 bucks to pay?
Oh, that's what the mic.
So this was real high.
Okay, so another one of these.
Mine 217 in the first year.
Okay, you're on the other side of the hill. In fact, I estimated it would spread out.
Mine are large across the whole top. I'm like, come on.
Is this a swarm?
Yes. That's a swarm hive.
How'd you know?
Because it's all built out in the top. A swarm, a naturally caught swarm would be way better than a package for building comb.
Well, you got 4 hives?
And also they're like 3 times the size.
They're really building that out.
Yeah, that's all nice new comb.
Did you feed them? Did they share you don't feed them at all this spring?
How long ago did you add the second box, Rich?
I'm going to say maybe 5 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Well, they did well.
They're all different.
What is that?
Every
one?
hive is
Is
different.
that a swarm?
Yeah, that's a swarm.
And you don't feed them?
I haven't the swarms, but I do the packages.
Oh, okay.
The
All right,
packages just
feed my
are
pack.
just further behind the process. That's why the swarms are so.
They're moving right
The
along.
swarm hives are so much better.
My package is, I just
Put that in the bottom.
put some
Does everybody know what stored pollen looks like? Stored pollen. All right, if you look up here, stored pollen is all in this ring right above my finger. It has multiple colors depending on what pollen source it came from.
Right.
Okay? Right here by my thumb.
Right. Cap honey too.
Usually it's between the honey and the brood. Stored pollen. They put the pellets in there and they ram it in with their head like you're ramming the powder in a can. Yeah.
This is working.
Bee bread is processed pollen. This pollen, this is mostly just pollen because they're still packing it in there. They add enzymes to it, but they'll coat it with a little honey, then it's more like bee bread then. Let me ask you another question. Every time you go to your hives, do you go through and look at every frame in the brood nest? Huh?
Go into your farm brood and stop.
Well, it depends.
What are you looking for?
Why would you?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying a lot of people do that. Every 2 weeks, pull every frame out of their brood nest. Don't do that. What I do is once I inspect my colonies in the spring, I know there's no disease, okay? I know how strong they are. I've managed them or equalized the strength. Okay, now I have honey supers on. When I pop the lid, I'll go around and check them. If I see they're working in the honey super, like I mean white comb and they're working there, that's all I do. I might add another super. But if I go to a colony that's got 2 honey supers on it and I don't see any bees when I pop the lid, you think I should look in the brood nest then? Absolutely. So you don't have to bother them down there all the time. You only want to do that if you think something is not right. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Because I have had people tell me, oh, every 2 weeks I take every frame out and look for brood. And they're also calling me every 2 weeks. The bee was looking at me cross-eyed today, Tim. What do you think's wrong with it? Come on, dude. How do I know?
You're the guru.
There's a relief to know because he's got.
And part of it's a sink or swim method, you know. You are going to second guess, and if you want to look at one hive every week, I don't have a problem with that. But don't, you know, one thing happening in one cell is not the end of the world, you know.
So how often do you recommend a full inspection? Just at the beginning of the year and then?
I might do it a couple times in the spring if I make a split,
Right.
or if I make up a nuke. then I've got to come back and check that in a few weeks and make sure it worked.
Right.
Because if it didn't work and that hive gets weak, it's a prime candidate for what? A small hive beetle or a wax moth problem. So you've got to stay on top of that stuff. I like to write dates on my hive so I know when I was last there and if everything was cool or not cool. If there's no queen today, I'll put Q minus and the date. So if I come back in a week and a half, I would expect to see a queen in there if there was cells or something like that. I don't keep it in a book because I never have the book with me or I never have a pen.
Tim, you can also use something called Hive Tracks.
I've heard of that, but don't you have to, can you do that from your...
Free. From your cell phone, from your computer, from anything,
Yeah.
and you can keep track of your hive.
But I like this. Just like that.
Nice
It's
and
a
easy,
big
yeah.
fat crown from the lumber yard.
Hey, Rich, now you have a dead queen.
Oh, that one's doing well. It's going to get a honey super.
There you go.
Okay.
Tim, what about interest reducers? You leave them on right now this time of year?
I don't. But if it's a smaller hive and you're worried about a possible robbing situation, it's always good. Just think of these little ones are like babies that they need extra care more than the big ones. So
that's why the larger ones are going to be moved to English farms. It's a new area. I got a little more logistical hassle when I go there. Here I can pop in any time. So this is going to be more like a nursery. And next year we're going to buy package bees and make little nukes so people who are interested, they'll have a nuke of package bees so you don't have to worry about putting the queen in a hive and everything else. It'll make it a little easier for you guys.
why is there no flight here, Rich?
I don't know. They've been very quiet in the last couple of weeks.
Bees on
So
top.
there's plenty of bees here. You see how I broke it loose? Did I let it mash down and kill all the bees that are underneath all the frames? No. If you want to work bees so you don't get them too upset, when you break them loose, you want to not let them fall back down on the rest of the hive.
Unless it weighs 80 pounds when you go to pick it up and you're like,
you gotta
what?
have your doggone weight belt on,
you
your
do.
strap on.
That's okay. I went to pull one off. It says it's stuck really good, and it wasn't stuck. I just couldn't lift it.
Tim, this is a hive that I was also considering requeening in the fall.
There's a nice box of honey right there.
Yeah, it
Rich.
is. That's a full box. But I've been considering requeening it. The one over there has been requeened about a month ago.
Right.
So this hive's been probably in its fourth, fifth year.
Really? Same queen?
Oh, look at that, yeah.
I almost wiped this hive out last year. I had let too much condensation into the hive the year before. So in the spring when I opened up the hive, there was the queen and barely a fistful of bees. I thought, oh, this was over. She came back in full strength, and I had 2 supers of honey from her last year.
Really?
But right now, there's at least one, maybe 1.5.
Yeah.
But she's always been kind of quiet, you know. Other than she has a bright green spot on her, the queen. And usually I find her almost every time.
That's a pretty long time for a queen, isn't it?
Very long.
Especially nowadays.
That's good genes.
Hello? Good. Good, very good. Well, I might have kind of food.
Maybe we should phone her. She's a candidate for, we put her queen
No, he's finishing it up right now.
Hey Tim, whenever I take my boxes on and off, there's a million bees on the edge of every box. And I never can do it without crushing it. I can't get it back on.
If you smoke the edge, don't they move away? No?
Not enough for me to get the box back up there.
One of the things you can do is go like this.
Okay.
Minimizes it a little, makes you feel good.
It's the crunch, it's like all those crunching molds.
Tim, did you see brood in there?
Up top? No.
No, I mean in the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Eggs, larvae, seal.
She's always been kind of like a quieter hive.
Yeah, there's not a lot of flight.
Other than I think she's an exhibitionist, because I do find her pets every time I open her up. Now this hive is John's again. Last year it was pretty aggressive on us. It seems to have slowed down a little bit, but I was really worried if this one had met its days, because it would pursue a little bit more than the others.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They go after you when you open it?
Yeah.
Mine tend to be.
And we got this one from it was from a nuke from Harvey's Honey.
Right.
And I was, they were strong, they were good, but
nice box.
A little bit aggressive. But I don't mind.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about actually harvesting this honey this afternoon, if anyone's interested.
That one's not very heavy though.
Strong.
Do you have your extractor here already?
I have it at my home. We were just going to take the honey supers off and extract it in my house during the week. I have some hives, combs that I want to clean up, put them on, have them clean them up, and then treat them with Apiarist so they're ready for the fall.
Yeah. So you just take basically your hot knife and just cut the tops off.
Exactly, hot knife.
It would be bad to take the honey off or the extract off.
Nice frame of brood.
But it's not inedible, is it?
Queen? No, there's a couple drones. Oh, here's something you're going to want to see. Here's a stringed wing bee with a varroa mite on its belly. You see how small that bee's abdomen is?
Yep.
Parasitized by varroa. You see that tiny little bee?
Yep.
And there's a varroa mite just went around onto its belly. Or she might have jumped off. See how small the bee's abdomen is? Bees that are parasitized have much smaller body weight when they're born. See it right there? No. Do I take that out of there? No. That's an indication that this hive needs to be treated. Spring wing, look how small the outreach is. There was a bite on it. The combs will get darker over time. It's like if you had a white carpet in your living room and where everybody walked all the time, that's going to be a lot darker than the pristine spot under the coffee table. Unless you have kids that spill stuff.
So what do you do about the varroa mite problem
You
now?
treat them when you pull the honey.
Get the middle one.
Huh?
The middle,
The third
second
one down.
Third one up, third one down.
On the other side.
This side's up.
You can do them all?
Might as well, right? Unless we're ready to leave. You ready to leave?
Oh, I want to suck all your knowledge. Keep going.
Tim, this one was requeened the Sunday after the state meeting we had a month ago.
Okay.
top is pretty empty.
And why was it requeened?
Older hive, queen, they weren't doing much. I had even trouble finding the queen.
Where did you want to get it? In Piscataway?
The queen was from Charlie. Charles Todd.
Todd, yeah.
Todd. I don't say Todd, it's Todd.
Todd.
Very happy. They seem to accept her almost immediately. There's brood in there.
Yeah, that's where mine from, Charlie's, and they're very docile.
They were struggling. I could tell that the queen was either dead or she wasn't doing much.
So did you find her and stuff?
No, what I did was I actually took every frame out and I put the queen, all the bees through a queen excluder. So the drone, and if she was there, she wouldn't get into the hive. So I actually combed each one of the hives, each one of the frames. I take the frame. Yeah, that's beautiful. Took all the frames out for the super. Put a queen excluder on top of it. Then I would brush with the bees onto the queen excluder. They would go through the queen excluder.
Oh, but she couldn't.
Doing good.
And the drones could go there. So as far as I'm concerned, the drones and the queens, whatever it was, chuck them outside the hive and kill the males who made it back. So what? There's always going to be enough of them.
Tim, do you have a feeling about frame foundation are not built yet on the outside being rotated in?
Easy.
Yeah,
Do it?
absolutely. But don't do it to the point. I had a lady once in March checkerboard her hive and took 5 frames of bees and put a frame of foundation in between each frame of bees and then flipped supers and put that box on the bottom. And she pretty much killed her hive. So you got to do it the right way. You know, if the hive isn't strong, then just rotate 1 in. Don't rotate 5 in, you know what I mean? But use common sense with it. 1 frame in, give them a week or so, then do another one. That's all. That's a way you can encourage them to build comb. Also, if you start out with a package, you don't start them with 2 deeps. You start them with 1 deep until they occupy the space, then put the 2nd deep on. I still find people that put 2 deeps on and the package is up here and this is all foundation underneath. They're not going to draw that. They want to move up to draw comb, not down.
Tim, you got a branch on the back side of that.
Well, if you want to take it off, then you say you're not distracted. So when you go to treat, using apple board,
And I think it's gonna smoke a long time.
He keeps filling it.
You see these Purcos, these black plastic frames?
Yeah.
They're notorious for sticking to the frame above them. The bees build burr comb between them all the time. I hate them.
That's what all that is on there?
we're getting rid of all of them.
I don't endorse them at all.
What is all those?
If you see this drone brood in the burr comb, what are you going to do?
Drape it.
What are you going to do first? Look for mites, examine it, right?
So those are no good.
Once they get busted open, they're not going to live. And this is a good place to look for varroa mites. What do you think the bees do with these babies? Sometimes they eat them back up and reuse the material. Didn't see any varroa mites in that one. Does that mean they're not there? No. Good. What's that?
Is that a beetle larva?
No.
It's like a queen?
It's a wax moth one.
Oh, wow.
So right there, it's walking. It's crawling right there. You see that?
You never saw that?
bottle? No.
Before, yeah.
But that's a strong enough hive, you can take care of it, don't you think? Or not?
Why do you think that wax moth was in there?
Because someone's hiding.
Because we were violating bee space. They can hang out where there's no bee, where the bee space isn't maintained. Is that hive? Is that wax moth going to destroy this hive?
No.
No way. This is a strong hive. That's not a threat whatsoever. But it's just good for you to be able to see that.
If there was a wax moth problem, there'd be a lot.
Crawling down? You know,
If there was a wax moth problem, there wouldn't be this many bees in here.
Man.
The plastic frames are slightly smaller. So bee space, what's bee space? It's
3/8.
3/8 of an inch?
Yeah.
Anything bigger than 3/8 of an inch, they're going to fill with comb. Anything smaller than 3/8, they're going to plug up with propolis.
Beautiful frame of larvae. Beautiful frame of white larvae. See them all?
And are all those bees on there nurse bees?
On the frame? A lot of them are. I wouldn't say all of them. She's doing a job here, this queen.
Is there anything that can be done when you open a hive and there's a lot of males? Too many than needed?
drones? Well,
no, not drones.
Males are drones.
Males.
Yeah. What do you mean too? There's not too many. The hive will regulate what's in there unless the queen becomes a drone layer. So if the queen is a drone layer, she needs to be, that hive needs to be stacked on a strong hive so they kill her. And then you could make a split out of a strong hive to replace that hive, or just leave the equipment stacked till next year.
And you can tell if a queen is turning into a drone layer because in the middle of a nice flat area of worker brood, capped brood, you'll see bullet-shaped, bulging drone brood where she's just running out of sperm. So she'll be laying eggs instead of the larger cells that they've actually created in spaces.
How did they
or
look,
around
Tim?
the
Okay?
outer
They
edge
look
of
good.
the frame.
Good.
Are you still feeding this one, Rich?
I gave him food about a week ago.
Because they still have some combs to draw
Yeah.
out in here.
And that was a package bee.
Oh, this was a package?
Yep, all my packages are being fed.
So how long should you keep feeding them?
Till all the combs are drawn out.
All the combs.
You got to get through that winter.
Yeah, if it's packaged, you're not expecting to harvest anyway, right?
But then if it's August, you may need to keep feeding them anyway.
Depends on where you live, but you're right. Man, she's laying up a storm. This is solid eggs. Now here's a prime instance where we could move one frame out, move this one in because it's close to where they're working. And when Rich hits them with feed again, it'll be a lot easier for them to draw that out because it's warm in that space between two drawn out frames. Yeah, they'll clean that up.
You're going to make them work a little extra hard then.
Yeah, let them eat.
Will they take the wax too?
Yeah, they won't take the wax, but they'll eat the brood out of there.
Is that another package, whoever's doing it?
I think this is.
Like it, yeah. It's got a feeder on it.
It's got a feeder in it,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
This group is outside.
They're making it.
Yeah, these guys are not happy with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, this looks a lot more active than any of the other ones, right?
That's the last one.
It's always the last one.
Right?
They didn't get enough smoke.
I'm running out of smoke. Tons of larvae though. And my smoke's getting hot. They don't like hot smoke. You see that cell right there? What would you do if you saw a cell like that?
What's it got, a hole in it?
Yeah.
Just open it up and see what's going on?
Yeah. How's it look?
Looks okay.
Looks nice and white. That's what
Why
we
would
want.
it have a hole in it then?
Huh?
Why would it have a hole in it? If it looks okay?
Because it wasn't finished being capped.
Oh, okay.
I had
So you won't be able to tell the difference right away. Over time you'll be able to tell. Because generally a diseased comb, the perforation would be in the corner of the cap or in an odd position. Generally when they cap a cell, they cap it from the outside to the inside. And I knew by looking at it that it was just one that hadn't quite been capped yet.
Tim,
But for good practice for you guys, if you see a perforated cap, you want to open it up and take a look at it.
But normally, if it was disease, it would be more likely on the side.
Normally. But normally it's not 100%. So just keep that in mind.
you see a lot of drone build out around this.
That's not a lot, Rod.
Okay.
That's a little.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
And that's the normal spot too, right?
Yep. Yeah, beautiful. The other nice thing to notice is if you look, the open cells, some of them are not capped yet, but others are full of liquid. What would that tell you as a beekeeper? They're glistening and full of liquid.
It's nectar.
What does that tell you?
Why are they putting it in the middle of the hive?
Why do you think?
So they don't have to go so far to get that?
No.
The queen doesn't lay.
The queen hasn't laid there, but sometimes the reason she hasn't laid there is because they put it in there too quick. So what might that tell you as a beekeeper?
Queen's not laying there now?
No.
There's a nectar flow.
There's a nectar flow. Ding, 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 ding. It's coming in so fast, a lot of times they'll stuff it in the brood nest, okay? They'll stuff it in the brood nest, which is good. That means, I mean, that's one of the reasons we can work bees and nobody's got a veil on and it's a nice low humidity day. I mean, it's about perfect as it gets right now. Okay, I'm not even sweating. My glasses haven't even had sweat run down the inside of them yet. So, but yeah, when you see that, that's good. Now, if you looked at this frame and you saw no juice in any of the open cells, no capped stuff up in the corners, what does that tell you?
There is no nectar.
They're not happy.
It's in a dearth period. And then sometimes you'll see half-eaten brood that's been chewed out. That's a sign of cannibalism, is a sign that they need some food. They're starting to get hungry. Okay?
How long does it take them to put the get the wax built out on the frames?
Oh, it depends on a lot of things. Like the strength of the hive. It depends on the strength of the honey flow. Strength of the queen.
Well, I just put a medium on top of my super, and it was all new foundation. I'm just wondering what the heck's going to happen.
Are you feeding them?
No.
Is this an overwintered hive?
Yeah.
Well, if there's no honey flow, or the honey flow is over at your house, or the colony swarmed but doesn't have enough adult members to store food, then they won't do it. Or if you put it over a queen excluder.
No.
So if it's at the height of the honey flow and you got a good population of bees, they should draw it out pretty quick.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. You just squished a bee.
50,000.
Where?
By your left hand.
Well, he's all right now.
Squished another one.
I'm not violating bee space. None of them got squished. That drone's going to get it, though, in a minute.
There you go.
Okay, gang.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.